This is what's pissing me off today. I'm Bob Pritchard. Well, tonight's the big game. It's not necessarily the biggest game, but tonight's a really big game as the Toronto Blue Jays will be taking on the New York Yankees in Game 3 of the American League Divisional Championships. Okay, so far the Jays have done really, really well. I mean, what can you say when you get back-to-back games with more than 10 runs in them other than, yeah, we did really well. Although I have to admit, after we got past our starter on Sunday's game, things certainly didn't look all that great from the bullpen as they managed to let, 7 runs cross the plate in the back or the bottom third of the game. Anyway, it was more or less a disaster. But when you're sitting on 11 runs, it's a disaster you can withstand. I just hope that this little sprint from the Yankees doesn't give them confidence to think that they can beat us in tonight's baseball game. So anyway, how important is this game? Well, let me put it in realistic terms, especially if you're a fan of history. If you remember back into Germany in the 30s, and remember, there were so many similarities between what the Trump is doing, or I guess the Donald is doing, and what Adolf Hitler did. You know, you would think that Trump is reading Adolf's Mein Kampf and taking notes to see how he can ruin the United States of America, and so far he's doing an excellent job if destruction and, ruining the whole thing is what your goal in all of this is. Back in the mid-30s, I think it was 1936, they had the Olympics in Berlin. And what happened at those Olympics was that the Germans felt that because they were the Aryan superior white race, that they should just annihilate the rest of the world, and that's what Adolf was hoping for. Well, didn't quite turn out that way. A guy named Jesse Owens showed up, and well, that's the end of that discussion as he walked away with some very significant medals. Now, let's talk about the parallel between what Hitler did in the 30s in Berlin with the Olympics and what's happening in New York tonight. In the game tonight, we're going to be looking at the Yankees, who are going to be, desperate for a win. If they lose tonight, it's all over for them for the year, and the Jays move on to the next round, which is just fine with me. Now, let's think about that in terms of President Trump. He's probably looking at signing a presidential order that could, ban the Jays from showing up in New York at all if they've already got themselves all lined up for tonight's game. Or maybe even another presidential order that could take all the ICE policemen, assuming they can find 25 people who can play baseball, and make a new team and have them replace the Yankees. So there's an obvious choice. Of course, they wouldn't have gloves and bats. They would have pistols and long rifles, but we won't get into the detail on how they'd pull that off. Regardless of how stupid all of this sounds, what an interesting way to start to make Canada the 51st state. Of course, at the speed things are going in the States, by the time they get around to bringing us into the American Union, God, I hope that doesn't happen, there'll be a whole bunch of states who have left already, so we could be like the 38th state or 39th state, or maybe we'd be the 51st and a half state because, we have to get the new designation for counting because of all the people who are so pissed at Trump in the States that they're trying to get out of this mess. Regardless of all that, I wish the Jays the best. I watched your last 2 games, the entire game, in real time. I never do that, and I enjoyed every moment of it, and I'm really hoping that tonight's the night that I get to see you guys move on to the next round in baseball. And that's what's pissing me off today. I'm Bob Pritchard.